Hey there, welcome to the zoo in my backyard. It's the only life I've ever known. I'm kind of a junior zookeeper here. If you think being a zookeeper is walking through mysterious jungle-like places, unlocking and locking enclosures, feeding animals and talking on cool walkie-talkies, and driving golf carts, and did I mention the walking part? You would be right, but there's a love for animals that makes it all worth the work. And new things are always around the corner. So join me as we hop over to the enclosures to meet our zookeepers and explore a day in their lives. I've been at the zoo for as far back as I can remember.
She's been in the zoo since she was 2 days old. So this is all really she has known. And obviously we spend a lot of time inside the zoo.
My parents used to take me in a little backpack and carry 2 water jugs and go through the zoo and feed. But nowadays, running this zoo takes more than just me and my family. So today we'll meet up with our zookeepers and find out what they do in a day. For me, I get going just a little bit later than some folks here at the zoo, like Megan.
It's 7:30 in the morning and I'm here and we're getting ready to go take care of the animals and check on them, so let's go. We get here, we check everybody through the walkthrough, so we make sure everybody is secure, everybody's doing well from the night, and then we start feed, watering and caring, cleaning the enclosures and everything like that throughout the day.
Megan was a new hire who had not done an internship, and she was actually the first employee that we hired that had not had extensive experience in the zoo field. She impressed us in her interview. She was mature, she was very detail-oriented, and really showed a passion to work here with the animals right off the bat.
And just make sure everything's good to go before we open up. And then we'll do the same thing down here with Mondo. And this is a Fusa. And like I said, he is new. And a really fascinating thing is that they do imitate like a lemur sound when they are hunting lemurs. That is their main food out in the wild because they come from Madagascar. Like a normal kid, I always wanted to be like a veterinarian or something. My family was a farmers, so I grew up around cows and pigs and chickens.
Megan is very funny. Once at a summer camp that we were doing together, she brought this huge yellow hat.
She was the man with the yellow hat from Curious George. It was huge, and it would literally be about as tall as me, and she would wear it. It was one of the funniest things.
To get things done, we have to work together.
It's fun to work on a team. We definitely have to watch each other's backs and communicate. That's why we do have our walkie-talkies, because you constantly have to radio, be like, where are you at? Or can you come help me with this? Okay, copy that. Some things will require 2 people, and so we have to communicate and work as a team to make sure that gets done during the day. As communicating behavioral differences, if somebody's sick or if somebody is not eating or their diet's changed, just communicating all of that down to each other.
Roger that, thank you.
I love it. That one reason I went from part-time to full-time is because I just absolutely love being here.
Meanwhile, Josh is living his dream down at the spider monkey enclosure.
Prior to working at the zoo, I worked from a restaurant to law enforcement, just anywhere in between that I've always loved, which is dealing with animals.
So Josh is a hard worker, and he's focused, and he's a little quiet, but we all love him.
After the zoo is all clear, we start prepping the food and feeding the animals.
Right, just came to the feed room to get some clean buckets so that we can feed and water the animals that I'll be working with today. We'll go ahead and head on up.
Justice has a degree in biology. She's a great problem solver.
Most of my day-to-day tasks involve taking care of the animals, such as preparing their diets, cleaning up after them, securing their accesses, making sure everyone is safe, well fed, and taken care of.
Justice started with us as an intern. She finished up her internship and then went to school, finished school, and then came back, and we hired Justice on. She has been an integral part of this team as well. Has a love for what she does. She comes up with some great ideas. She's a go-getter. You know, we like individuals who can work autonomously as well as with a team.
Justice is passionate about what she does. As zookeepers, we don't just do it because we want to, but for us, it's kind of a calling. It makes me think back to the first ones to care for God's animals.
In the Garden of Eden, God created it. He sat back and he said, man, I did a good job with this. You know, this is fantastic. You know, in the beginning, he told Adam to take care of the earth. I think he had a tremendous task to name the animals, and there was a different relationship with animals in the garden, I think, than what we have today.
In Genesis 2:15, it says, "The Lord God took man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work and keep it." From the beginning, mankind was told to be good stewards of what God had made.
I think we're fulfilling that here, not necessarily in naming the animals, but in taking care of what God has given us.
Speaking of taking care of God's animals, it's time for me to feed Charlie, the lesser anteater. You can see by his long nose, tongue, and sharp claws, which can rip the bark out of trees and move rocks. He was obviously designed by God to feed on ants and termites. You want some yum yum? So a neat fact about anteaters is they're low on vitamin K, which means that they can't clot their blood. So in his diet, he'll have to have some vitamin K. His diet is kind of a soupy diet. It's got some insects and some meat in it for his protein. You okay? And his feet here have these two big kind of claw things, and they're very strong. He can do pull-ups pretty much whenever he pulls up on the bars. So he'll pull himself up to get up on the branches up there. And he has a prehensile tail, which means that he can wrap his tail around and use it like a hand. And just kind of slurps his food. He's a messy eater. And anteaters have a very long tongue, and it's very narrow. And that way they can kind of just, that's how they eat. Their mouth doesn't open wide, actually, so they just kind of slurp their food in. You're a messy eater. Did you know that? He's a mountain of muscle, as you can see there. He's got a lot of muscle. Hi, sweet boy. Hi.
Yeah, the keepers feed pretty much all day. Feed water clean, put enrichment items out. They try to get most of their feeding done prior to afternoon, prior to 12 o'clock.
I've always had a love for animals, even as a small child. It's always been something that I knew that I wanted to do.
Emily graduated college. She had done an internship here. A lot of zoos like to hire former interns because we've gotten to know them already. We know their personalities, their work ethic. And so Emily came in, hit the ground running, and she is quieter amongst all of our interns, but she has a passion for animals. She's wanted to do this her whole life, and she is living her dream and is very passionate about what she does.
Emily and I both share a love for Tucker. Just about everyone has a good Tucker story. Even our brand new zookeeper, Eva.
Tucker has stolen my heart in a way I cannot describe. I have a 4-year-old, and he came for his birthday in May, and he has autism, so he has a little bit of trouble with social interaction, and kids sometimes pick up on that. He's a little bit different. And he met Tucker, he fed him sweet potatoes, and he loved it.
Eva is the newest member of Creation Kingdom Zoo.
Yep, it's my second day here. I've worked in St. Louis and Chicago mostly, as far as zoos and aquariums. I've also done biological research in Mississippi and Florida. I did some work in Texas, kind of been everywhere. I've lived in, I think, 9 states in 7 years. I've kind of lost track at this point. I saw signs, and I'm not from here, so I'm kind of exploring everything. And so I decided to investigate, and I came here with my kids, and we thought it was neat, and I wanted to know a little bit more about it. So I got an interview, and I met Mark, and I just met Cash. I mean, the first thing the boys told me about her, I was like, so what's she like? And I was thinking, like, is she nice? And they were like, well, she's tried every diet so far. And I was like, okay.
They're amazing. Me trying animals' food? That's another episode altogether.
Very interesting. I'll have to ask her about that. But also, you know, I'm like, and they're like, oh yeah, she knows everything. Like, it would blow your mind how much she knows. And they're like, honestly, like, she can teach you anything. If you have any questions, ask her, especially someone so young who knows so much. She's not, you know, arrogant or condescending. She's just, she loves it so much, she genuinely wants to tell you about it. She genuinely wants to share it with you.
I think Eva and I are gonna get along just fine. With the zoo opening, we have a group of homeschoolers coming today. My dad tells them what to expect.
Let me go over some quick rules, regulations, make sure everybody's got a fun, safe day, okay? How many of you been here before? Yay, you're tour guides. Keepers are located throughout the zoo. They're happy to answer your questions that you have.
We love having guests come to the zoo and see all God's amazing animals. It's hard to even imagine what they would have been like in the Garden of Eden. How sad that mankind rebelled against God, and there was a curse placed on all of creation.
Animals begin to turn on other animals, and I think that must have been really something for Adam and Eve to experience. I mean, they experienced this utopia where everything was in perfect harmony, and after the fall of man, I don't think they realized the ramifications down the line that would have. You know, the lion that was once laying down at their feet now was chasing an antelope to kill it.
Man's sin caused a horrible change in the world.
When we watch a documentary, or even here in the zoo, much to a lesser degree, but the wild is exactly that. It is wild, and it can be violent. It didn't have to be that way, you know, and we all sit back and we want to point the finger at Adam and Eve and what a mess they've made. But the reality is many of us would have done the exact same thing.
But even with the horrible curse on creation, we can still see the amazing ingenuity of God's creatures as we make our way through the exhibits.